And away we go. It is the Aftermath, brought to you by Mio's Pizza right here on BearcatJournal.com. We are live from the Cincy Light Studios. Make sure anytime you are up and around campus, you stop by and see our good friends at Mio's. They will get you taken care of. Awesome pizza, awesome steak hoagies, sandwiches, pasta, appetizers, you name it. It's delicious. And great drink specials, including Cincy Light on tap, ready to go. Anytime, like I said, you are in Clifton, stop by, visit our good friends at Mio's, maybe Saturday before the Bearcats take on Arizona at 2:30. All right, Aaron, here we go. Bearcats open Big 12 play on the road with a loss. Kansas State 70, Cincinnati 67. I know there's going to be a lot of complaining about the officials. I get it. They weren't good. Part of it's on me. I said I didn't really have too much of a problem with the officiating. And then as soon as I said it, everything went to shit. A bad goaltending call on Aziz, and then a guy undercuts him. He gets knocked down. They call it travel. It was not good. But I'm not going to sit here and blame this game on the officials, Aaron. Cincinnati, from the jump, did not play well enough to win. Now I turn it over to you.
I don't particularly care one way or the other as far as who you blame it on. No offense. It's just I'm also not going to blame the refs, but that was horrendous. How do you only have 5 blown calls the entire game up until the last 2 minutes? On Kansas State, the whole game, Dan got an over the back on one of the last rebounds on that free throw too. I don't know. It just, I don't know how you just swallow your whistle the whole game and you're still paid doing your job. You had an entire video timeout to review that the goaltend, and you still fuck it up. So that's wild to me. The announcers saw it, we at home saw it. I'm sure Dan and Terry saw it, but the referees were the people at the arena saw it in the Octagon of Doom or whatever they call that shit. We all saw it, but the only ones who didn't were the 2 idiots standing at the video monitors.
Yeah, I mean, 8 total team fouls in a game that was that aggressively played is silly. It's nonsense. But I said this from the opening segment, Aaron. Kansas State was playing harder than Cincinnati. They got to loose balls,
which
50-50 balls.
Doesn't mean you just swallow your whistle, though. That's the part I don't understand.
Again, you can't put yourself in a position where the officials decide the outcome. And Cincinnati put themselves in that position. They trailed for 35 and a half minutes of this game. They led for 24 seconds, Aaron. They led for 24 seconds.
It was also a quicker whistle every time you were on Kansas State's side of the court.
Okay, great. So that just throws out the fact that they didn't play well enough to win?
No, it just means that you have to play an entirely different style of basketball than the other team, which is bananas. That's bananas.
Okay. That's on your team. That's on, yes, bad officiating happens. It was Doug Sermons and Kip Kissinger. It was going to be a poorly officiated game. Knew that coming in. Said it before the tip. As soon as I saw Doug Sermons' stupid face on the screen, I said it was going to be a poorly called game. My first tweet of the game was, Doug Sermons, oh no. You know it's not going to be properly officiated. But that's not an excuse. This is my problem with just immediately it's the official's fault. That takes away from the fact that this team did not do the things that you have to do to win on the road in the Big 12. They did not get loose balls. They did not offensive rebound. They turned the ball over at a ridiculous rate for the first 28 minutes.
Horrendous.
Yeah. So, yes, was the officiating bad? Yes, it was. Yes. But Cincinnati also didn't play well enough to win that game.
Well, let me get to chastising the team. That's fine. But first, I want to put the entire referee squad over a barrel and beat them senseless. Like it was it was absurdity. It just, and it probably was just made that much worse by the woman screaming the entire game. I'm fairly certain it was a player's mother, just by some of the things that were being said.
It sounded like a player's parent. But for me, I don't listen to the announce team. I don't have the volume up more than just like kind of white noise level, because I things like that.
I don't know how the production crew couldn't figure out a way to not have that happen. That was absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. Just move your crew to the other side of the court or something. I don't know, man. Ugh. That for me, that was the Octagon of Doom. Having to listen to that woman for 2 hours.
Oh, the other problem is CMOS 4 points, Jizzle only 11, 4 assists but 3 turnovers. You didn't really get anything from the bench. Day gave you 9 points. Arrington Page gave you 1. That was it. You got 10 points from your bench. CMOS 2 of 6, 0 of 2 from 3. I mean, I give Kansas State credit there. They did a good job not letting him get free. But then that has to open other things up. Like it's got to create more opportunity for other guys. If they are focusing that much on stopping CMOS, other guys have to get free. It can't be a matter of they just take CMOS away and it really doesn't do anything for anybody else all night.
Yeah, and I think Dan took advantage a little bit of that tonight. But I would think that would open up more down low for things like Dylan, things like Aziz. For Aziz to only have 9, I didn't love that. I thought he should have had probably closer to 14.
He got bodied every time they threw a lob, to the point of every one of them should have been a foul call.
But we swallowed our whistles, and that was.
But that's different. Remember what I said? Remember what I said a couple weeks ago? That when you get into Big 12 play, those lobs that look open aren't going to be open because of the physicality that they allow at the rim in conference play. Like I saw that coming from a mile away.
Sure, and for all the missed lobs, I actually didn't think that there were many shitty passes tonight. Like I know that I'm one to call out shitty lobs, but I didn't think tonight there were maybe 1 or 2 where the defense just had way better position, and were able to get tip passes and such. But that was my only gripe. That for me, those are the shitty lobs, is when you've got a guy that you just aren't seeing, and they're able to tip the pass.
Casey, I'm not blaming Aziz for anything. I'm talking about the reality of this. Is why I don't like doing these things right after games also, because everybody is worked up in a lather and they take everything I say the wrong way.
And I know I just said that I wanted him to have 14. It's not because he wasn't. It was because they weren't able to find him. They should be able to find him or scheme for him to be open.
But teams are going to do everything they can to take that away.
Well, sure, but you can't take it. You can't take everything away, I guess is my point. Like if you're taking CMOS away, you can't also take away down low. If you're taking away both of those things, then you should have guys open on the wings or Jizzle able to drive and score. Or Day did take advantage several times of that open.
I would like to have seen more of that.
Yes,
driving to the rim.
I thought he was aggressive.
Yeah, and Day or Jizzle was a couple times too. I didn't think we saw it enough. Those two just turning the corner because they weren't bringing help off of CMOS in those situations.
Right.
So you could turn the corner and there was unimpeded essentially to the rim because of the way Kansas State had structured their defense. A good game from Dan. Hit a couple threes, which we've been wanting to see from him.
He needed it.
needed to see a couple of those go in. He gets 18, but he only gets 2 rebounds, Aaron. And that's some of the stuff I was like, they were just, Kansas State was the more physical, more aggressive team. And if you want to say that's why it pisses you off about the foul calls, I get that. I don't disagree with you. But you can't, I saw it. I had people, I saw it in the opening segment that Kansas State was being the aggressor. I called it out, and what did I get? Like 5 people in my mentions. Oh, it's just because we blew through 3 layups. No, it's not as simple. That's just watching the ball. Like watching box outs, watching the way that Kansas State was approaching like their game plan, their plan of attack for this game.
At the first time out, 4.5 minutes in, and you only have 1 made 3-pointer, and it's, I think, also the only taken 3-pointer, and it was by Dylan Mitchell.
Yeah.
Which is crazy talk, that 4.5 in, and Dylan Mitchell has your only 3. By the way, his first career multiple
3-point game.
Multiple 3-point game. There we go.
Yeah.
He did have a double tonight as well, with his 15 and 11. I don't know. Just it's still, to me, it's on. You got to put a little bit of on coaching that you were not able to scheme Simas open. Like, he has to shoot more than 6 times. Has to. If he is going, we've talked for a season and a half. Find your alpha. Well, we have found our alpha. You cannot allow him to only shoot 6 times the entire game. Yep. And he was trying to do some different things. He was driving, which is, we've talked about wanting to see that as well out of him, and kicking out and finding some open guys. But that can't be Simas's game all day. You have to find ways to get your best shooter shots. There needs to be Simas offense.
Yeah. And they do run a lot of that. I think, Kansas State just had it scouted pretty well. And again, like, they exploited it, but they didn't exploit it enough. They didn't turn it into an advantage enough. The other thing that pissed me off a lot tonight, how many times did they get beat down the floor after a made basket? 4 baskets where Kansas State just immediately took it out of the net, threw it in, and were scoring at the rim in a blink. That's effort. That's the type of, I know everybody always laughed when Mick talked about toughness. Getting to 50-50 balls, not getting beat down the floor after a made basket. It's the basics of being a quality team. And what I mentioned that we would get to at the beginning, here is a little bit of my concern, Aaron. And it's going to be something that maybe we don't have to worry about after tonight, going forward. But ranked team, target on your back. We saw this at Villanova, where Villanova was ready for Cincinnati, and Cincinnati wasn't ready for Villanova. And we saw it again tonight. How many times over the past 3 days, Aaron, have I talked about my fear of exactly what happened? That they were going to go into that game, and Kansas State was going to say, we're 6-5, throw out the non-con. Throw it out. We got 8 days in between games. We're going to come back, and we're going to bring the fight to Cincinnati. We're going to make them the hunted. And we're going to hunt their asses down, and we're going to outplay them. And that's exactly what happened. This is twice in a row in the exact same situation, on the road against a team that you knew was going to come in hungry and looking for blood, and Cincinnati didn't have an answer.
Well,
that's concerning.
I don't think they're going to be ranked after today.
No, probably not.
Well, it'll take a week, right? Rankings come out on Mondays. So we'll wait until next week. So I guess for one more game, you'll still be ranked.
And it's not just winning the first 4 minutes of the game. It's that I could see the tone that was being set. Like, look, you can come out and miss shots. They missed some easy layups in the first 4 minutes. Like, I don't think the score was indicative of like how that first segment played out. But I could absolutely see, watching right in front of me, that they were the aggressor, that they were the team that wanted the ball, that they were the team that wanted the action far more than Cincinnati did. Did Cincinnati course correct over the course of the game? At times, yes. But they get the offensive rebound on the free throw. Like, stuff like that, you can't let happen. Hunter, thanks, brother. Rough start. Ran into a KSU team that the president was on polls. West will right the ship. We saw what happened after the Nova loss. We'll be all right. As always, go Bearcats. Love you guys. Love you too, Hunter. Appreciate you. Thank you for your service, as always. Hopefully, we're keeping you entertained wherever it is you are out there in the universe.
Amen.
but
Preseason
yeah,
polls, I corrected it down below.
Preseason polls. Yeah. That was my issue. Like, we knew this was a team that had talent that wasn't playing well so far this season. They were going to circle Cincinnati. They were going to, this is what, if you want to be a big dog in the league, you know what Kansas has to fight every game? You know what Baylor has to fight every game? Iowa State now we're going to see how Iowa State handles this. Circle. Big stars around the circle. This is our chance to make a statement that what happened in the non-con is not who we are. And they did it. They executed their game plan, and Cincinnati let them. Like, that's why I'm far more like focused on that than I am the officiating, because I saw this coming from 20 minutes on the clock in the first half. It bothered me. Points off turnover result.
15-8.
It wasn't pretty.
15-8.
Yeah. Cincinnati turned it over 15 times. Kansas State 11. A 7-point difference in points off turnovers in a 3-point game. And at one point in time, Aaron, I think it was 15-3. Like, that was the entirety of how Kansas State built the lead.
Well, 7-5 feels a lot better for Kansas State than 6-6. I'll tell you that.
Sure. I know the board's already getting crazy. That's why I haven't gone to the board. Look, I've been doing this for 18 years. There has never been a loss, never, in the history of the program where somebody didn't want to fire the coach.
Mick, we didn't get to shoot free throws because the refs didn't call any fucking fouls on us.
Oh, man. Gonna have to get better minutes from AP. Yeah. That was a embarrassing performance for him tonight. Embarrassing performance for him tonight.
Well, it wasn't as bad as his homecoming against Georgia Tech.
I think it was just as bad, if not worse.
I know that he's coming off of being sick, and obviously Connor as well, and Connor had the boot and all that. But between Connor and Betsy and AP, all three of them, you've got to have more than 1 point, 0 for 3 from the field, 0 for 2 from 3, 1 for 2 from the stripe, 1 rebound collectively, 1 assist collectively, 2 fouls. They did that. 1 turnover and 2 steals in 28 minutes of play. That's terrible for all 3 players to give you that kind of production in 28 minutes of play.
It's embarrassing.
Terrible.
Like, one of the strengths of this team is supposed to be depth, and you get nothing from 7, 8, 9. Nothing from 7, 8, 9. You essentially ran a 6.5-man rotation tonight.
And truthfully,
I still think Connor does a good job defensively. He's not giving you anything on offense.
Nothing. And he had one where the announcers even said he squared up to shoot, but lost his footing and just didn't shoot. So who knows?
Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong, Top G. Come down after Christmas holiday. They thought we beat Xavier and Dayton. We'll kill this team. And in the first 4 minutes, they got beat up, and it was on at that point. You're not wrong. I mean, think about it. It was 9-3, pretty much right out of the gate. The only time they took the lead was 27-26. And then they gave up a 5-0, 6-0 run right after that.
They got too fat over Christmas break. That's what Graybush says.
You have to understand. You have to understand in these situations, the other team is going to come in desperate. And you have to be ready to match that. You have to be ready, because what happens when you match that intensity from a desperate team, Aaron? They back down, right? They're reeling. They don't have confidence.
Or the refs call fouls on you and not on them.
That didn't happen early. That happened in the last 10 minutes of the game, yes. Early, Kansas State took it to Cincinnati, and Cincinnati was like, it's all right. We're better than them. We'll figure it out. We'll get it taken care of. And every time they got it close, Kansas State made a play. Every time they got it to 4, it got pushed back to 7 or 8.
I mean, it was 9 in the second half, though. They didn't give up. Like they
kept fighting.
Yeah.
It's not that they're. I think people get when you say they take it as like. It's not that they didn't play hard. It's not that their effort was bad and they looked like they were disinterested. But Kansas State played harder. That's the crux of the issue.
The Day missed dunk and the 8-point swing that I know I saw somewhere today that Cincinnati, I think you reposted this, maybe Dave did, I don't know, that Cincinnati was one of 2 teams with Liberty maybe that hadn't taken a kill shot yet. That felt like a kill shot. Him getting hung on the rim for what feels like the 28th time of his career. And then to have them make a 3 on the rebound
on the carom,
and then get a turnover and make another 3. I wanted to throw up. I don't want to see Day. Like, the only time I want to see Day go up for a dunk at this point is you got a double-digit lead. Otherwise, I think you need to. You are on the David DeJulius treatment, and if you need pointers, talk to Simas Lukosius, who refuses to dunk.
I don't know that he can. But there was another. There was another thing I jotted down. Like 6.5 minutes left. They cut it to 3. They get a stop.
You gonna talk about the NBA?
They get
3?
outworked. Huh?
I thought you were going to talk about Day-Day's NBA 3. That was around that time.
Whatever.
That was around that time frame as well.
No, they cut it to 3. Dan scored, I think, on a tough one at the rim. They cut it to 3. Kansas State comes down, takes a bad shot, and the guy just outworks. I think it was Dylan. I can't remember specifically, but pulls down the rebound. It gets knocked out of bounds, and then they inbound it, get 2. So what could have been a 3-point deficit with the ball, all of a sudden, now you're down 5. Like, those little things happened all game, and they add up over and over and over again, that you get outworked just on one little play where you're not the first guy to the ball, where you're not the guy that forces the intensity and action. And next thing you know, it results in points the other way. And instead of having a chance to cut it to 1 or to tie it, they're down 6.
Got another donation here from Hunter. If it's not a foul in the first minute, it's not a foul in the last minute. Referee 101, learn that reffing middle school games. Amen.
Yeah. It was AP, Hunter said. I believe you. That got outworked for the rebound. As bad as the night as he had, yeah. No doubt. I just, it's to survive at the top of this league. And I was listening to some podcasts today, just listening to what's being said about Cincinnati, in the fan base and out of the fan base around the country. As I was driving back and forth to Kenwood, hear a lot of like 15-5 and like this team's got a chance to win the Big 12. And until they figure out how to be the hunted instead of the hunter, they don't have a chance to threaten for the top of this league. That's why I was 12-8, 11-9. Like if things go really well and they get on a roll, maybe 13-7, but I just don't see night in and night out unless, and Aaron, what did I say? I hope Villanova was the learning opportunity, right? That needed to be the learning opportunity for tonight's game because it was a carbon copy of what happened at Villanova. It was almost exactly the same game.
I think the craziest stat for me right now as I'm looking at stats is all 5 of the starters were the only players negative in plus minus. And somehow, some way, with obviously Day has 9 there, but the rest of those 3 that we already went over what they compiled with their 1 point and 1 rebound and 1 assist. But Connor, Tyler, and AP were all positive at 7, 4, and 3. And
plus 14, those 3.
Do what? And Day plus 3.
Dan was -9 with 18 points.
What a weird stat.
But I'll give Jerome Tang credit. Starting Doug McDaniel, who had been coming off the bench, was a really, really strong move. He seemed to give them something offensively that they had not really had yet this season. But, I mean, they shot 43% from the floor and 30% from 3. Now, of course, a team shooting almost as bad as UC from the free throw line hit 16 of 20. If they miss any of those coming down the stretch, except for the one they did miss and then got the offensive rebound, that's what sticks in my craw, Aaron, is I just saw a team I saw a Kansas State team that wanted it more, that was more hungry, that was desperate to get those 50-50 balls. And that's ultimately what I think won them the game. For me, that was the difference.
For me, the difference is the fact that Coleman Hawkins did everything different than he had put on tape the rest of the entire season and actually scored.
I think some of that, though, was McDaniel. Like, McDaniel was cooking them so bad, you kind of had to leave Hawkins in one-on-one. He won a lot of one-on-one type matchups around the rim.
The announcers mentioned that Doug McDaniel, having the game that he had, took a ton of pressure off of Coleman Hawkins to be the guy. And it's not as if Hawkins hadn't been filling up the stat sheet in other places, even when he wasn't scoring. But that's what it is.
Yeah. I just, I'm frustrated because if I could see it coming from a mile away, I know the coaching staff could see it coming from a mile away. And you express that to your guys for the second time, that these guys are coming in desperate to save their season. And you let them be the aggressor. You let them take control. You let them dictate the terms of engagement. And if you ever been in a fight, The guy that dictates the terms of engagement is usually the winner of the fight. Not that I've been in a lot of fights, but that's what I've heard. That's what people that fight have told me. I'm not a tough guy like you fighting in the bathroom at the Bengals game.
That was in line. We weren't even in the bathroom yet. We were still outside waiting. That was a whole different. I think games like this though, like this is why I feel like you need an MTE. You need more than Villanova, Georgia Tech, Xavier, and Dayton.
Sure. I mean, but you just came off Dayton and Xavier. Like, you just had two. Like, isn't that the theory? If you play a tough game or two, then you're ready for the next tough game. That's not what we saw tonight. We didn't see a team that was ready for a fight. And that team just played its two toughest opponents of the non-con. So I don't know. I mean, it's easy to fall back on. I get it. And maybe, but do you really think like Kansas State played in an MTE? That's what had them ready for tonight. They lost like 3 games in their MTE, but that made them ready for Cincinnati. Like, I don't necessarily. They just lost 3 in a row, including Drake, not the rapper, because Drake can't win right now, but Drake, the basketball team. And then Wichita State beat them by 30. Like, that team is going to be desperate. That team is going to be scratching and clawing for their lives because they know if they start poorly in Big 12 play, they're never going to make it back up. But now they've got a quad 1A home win. And Cincinnati's got their tail tucked between their legs, staring down Arizona, Baylor, and Kansas. There's a very realistic possibility, Aaron, if they don't get right quick between now and Saturday, that in a week and a half from now, we're talking about an 0-4 conference start.
You've used the word tonight, embarrassing. If you want to talk embarrassing would be coming into the season ranked into conference play, ranked 17 and dropping your first 4.
Yeah. But we knew that when the schedule came out. We talked about it immediately when the schedule came out. Kansas State's going to be good. Arizona's going to be good. Well, Kansas State hasn't lived up to their billing.
We said a lot of things, though. We said that this team had depth, and right now, I don't believe that. I don't believe that.
If you go back to check the tapes, I said the top 5 are the top 5 for a reason on this team, and they are better by a pretty significant margin than the guys below.
Sure, but we all said one of the strengths of this team was depth, and that
should be depth.
Well, right now it is an Achilles heel.
They're not playing well. They're not giving good minutes off the bench. Aaron, Connor Cole points out you're on point. 24-23 Iowa State over Colorado with 5:30 left in the first half.
I told you.
Winning on the road is hard. Doesn't matter who you are or what number is by your name, which means you can't come in and just turn the ball over 8 times in the first half. You can't do it.
Nope.
Because the offense was working pretty good outside of that. And most of the turnovers were just stepping on the baseline or throwing a ball away that had no business being thrown away. Like, you can't expect to go into halftime with 8 turnovers and 1 offensive rebound and feel like you're in a position to win the damn game. This is what I didn't want to do. You know what I didn't want to do, Aaron? I didn't want to game 1 in the Big 12 have to be talking about the math and the numbers and what this means. Sure. I don't like being that guy. At times I've done it. I don't like being that guy, especially I guess here's the thing. Here's the key for me. This is the differentiator, right? If you play well and the refs cost you a game, like if you got a game where both teams are playing well and they're getting after it and it's a battle and the refs cost you a game, that pisses me off. That infuriates me. A game like tonight, play better. Play better. And then you don't have to worry about the stupid ass Kip Kissinger and Doug Sermons.
But that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where you've got to find your guy some fucking shots. 6 is unacceptable. 6 is unacceptable.
Well, the funny thing is that people before the game are Seamott's is shooting too much. No, he's not. He's not. I promise. I promise.
He should be shooting. You're not going to win games if he's not shooting 10 times.
Yeah. It stings more because it's the first. You lose this game in the middle of conference play. It doesn't hurt as bad, but it's still bad, but not as bad. The only reason I disagree there, Andrew, is because what's the next 3? Like, you've got 3 top 20 level Ken Pom teams coming up the next 3. So that's why this one hurts. Like, if you lost to Kansas State, but you had Colorado, Utah, and UCF up next, you wouldn't feel as bad about the outcome of this one. But
well,
you better find a way to protect home court.
Well, they didn't last year.
No.
That was another Achilles. How many heels does this team have to have Achilles heels in all of them? 15, I guess, on the roster. But I don't know. Home games are going to be tough. They're going to be tough because regardless if you still have a ranking after this week, the teams all know that you were still ranked. Like, you were still a top team.
Well, yes, I mean, you're still going to be a big win for everybody because the metrics aren't going to tank.
Correct.
At least at this point.
Somebody
might look a lot different if they're 0-4.
25 in Ken Pom. We've adjusted to 25 already.
Yeah. And they were 19 coming in or something. I agree with you, Top G. That's why February schedule is critical. Getting Arizona, Kansas, and Baylor out of the way early. Yes. But what did we talk about all last season? They got behind the number early and they could never catch it. They could never get back over the hump. You don't want to, in this league where you're playing home and away and like every other game, essentially one home, one away, like you don't want to get in a position where you have to run off 5 or 6 straight because it's just not likely in this league.
I said this was the most important game.
I didn't disagree with you, and I told you I felt bad. I didn't feel good about it because I feared exactly what happened.
Yep.
These guys have to learn they're not on the come up anymore. They, in terms of how teams see them, they have arrived. And if the number next to your name says you've arrived, your players better have arrived and be ready for a fight because you're going to get a fight. You think what Top G's talking about, February, you think those teams aren't going to be desperate for wins in February? Of course they are. Of course they're going to see Cincinnati, coming to town
Arizona,
as a team that's expected to make. Well, I'm just talking about, it'll get easier in February. This notion that you're getting the hard games out of the way now to get on a roll in February. My point being, all of those teams are going to have the same perception of Cincinnati that we saw Kansas State have tonight. We can get right because we can get one of the top teams in the conference. We can go get a scalp from one of the teams that's expected to be in the tournament, expected to be a top seed or however you want to classify it. So they better figure this out quick.
How long is the video session tomorrow?
A long one.
3 hours?
I might have them in the video room when the plane lands.
I don't know if you're allowed to do that or not.
No, there's a 20-hour limit. Although, you know what, Aaron? It's the holidays. School is out. You know what that means? There's no time limit. There's a time limit when school is in session. until that first day of classes, they don't have a time limit. So yeah, take them off the plane, drive them to campus, sit their asses down in the video room, and let's talk about it. I don't think we're to the point of taking their jerseys yet, but you need to get these guys to understand everybody is coming at you.
No.
Everybody is ready to fight.
No. Sleep till Zona.
Donna. Donna. You want to real quick go over all the individuals?
No,
Dan,
but I will.
Dan with 18, 7 of 15, 4 of 8 from 3. But he didn't do enough otherwise. He had 2 rebounds. He had 1 assist. He had 2 turnovers, no blocks, 1 steal, -9 in 32 minutes.
Just glad he found his shot. Just
4 of 8 from 3. I'll take that from Dan.
Considering he was 3 of 15 coming into the game, yeah. Jizzle 11, 5 of 9, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 fouls, 3 turnovers, and a steal. 26 minutes.
Yeah.
I would have liked to see more. In hindsight, I would have liked to see more Jizzle and Dede on the court together as opposed to some of the Hickman minutes. But
look, again, I hate to be a broken record, but who are their 3 best players? Doug McDaniel and Coleman Hawkins, who were both, on the top 100 NBA list, and then David Ngessian. Those 3 guys combined for 50 of the 70 Kansas State points. Cincinnati's 3 best players, Skillings, James, Lukosius, 29, 34, 33. 50 to 33. Their 3 best players against Cincinnati's 3 best players.
Is Arizona a must win?
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't lose these home games.
Well, if you lose to Arizona, what are the odds you win at Baylor? So you're 0-3, coming home, having to beat Kansas. Desperately having to beat Kansas.
Throw ranking out the window. At some point, you got to win some games that you aren't supposed to win. Period.
Sure.
Otherwise,
sure. But yeah, if you beat Arizona, you're 1-1. You lost on the road. You won at home. No harm, no foul. You're going to Baylor with a chance to get a scalp, right? That's you've leveled the playing field. My point being, if you don't hold serve and you lose to Arizona, now you're going to Baylor, potentially to go to 0-3 and coming home to Kansas.
Yeah.
So you have to get the worst, the nightmare scenario was to start 0-4. Well, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and it might be a train.
It opens you up to Kansas in the handshake line. Yikes.
Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor? The Germans didn't bomb Pearl Harbor. Let them cook. Let them cook. Go ahead. Keep going.
Dylan, double-double, 15 points, 11 rebounds, 2 threes today, 6 of 12 from the floor, 1 for 2 from the stripe, 4 offensive, 7 defensive, giving him those 11 rebounds. Only 2 fouls, only 2 turnovers, 2 steals, 27 minutes. He was off the floor for quite a bit. That might be – I expected him at 30.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look. I don't know if that was a matter of maybe trying to get 2 guards on the floor.
Potentially.
I didn't notice him out for that long. I didn't notice him out for 13 minutes. Yeah, that was part of the problem, Graybush, is he's not going to switch there, but he has to at least give them the the optical illusion that he's coming over a little bit and help, and instead he stayed connected to his guy and just let McDaniel go right past him multiple times. He's not going to switch that. That's not a switching action. But yeah, you've got to at least make them think you're a factor to defend them, and he did not.
CMOS, 4 points, 2 boards, 2 assists, a foul, 2 turnovers, 31 minutes. I don't ever want to see a stat.
It's not enough.
For him like that.
It's not
in
enough.
anything. And defensively, he got put on skates.
You expect that from time to time.
Well, you got to do something. You got to do something somewhere.
I wonder, Aaron, if that's why we saw a little bit less of Dylan, because they had to move CMOS to the 4 because he couldn't defend the 3. So I'm curious about that.
These 9 points, 4 of 7 from the field, 1 for 2 from the stripe, 9 rebounds, 4 offensive, 3 fouls, 3 turnovers, 2 blocks, should have been 3, and a steal. 29 minutes.
Yeah. He was okay. Did almost enough.
Day 9 points, 4 of 8 from the field, 1 for 2 from 3. The one he missed was that long one. Hated that one. 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 fouls, a turnover, a steal, 27 minutes. And the rest of the guys, yuck.
I thought CMOS did a good job giving, or not CMOS, but I thought Day did a good job giving them energy that they needed. Like he was,
I loved his.
He was that spark that nobody else. I mean, Dan gave it in a couple small spurts offensively, but I didn't see it defensively from Dan tonight. This wasn't the defense that we have seen this team play throughout the first 11 games of the season, especially since Dan came back. This is not the way that we have seen them defend. I don't think we really need to talk about the other guys because although maybe we should talk about them more because they were the only ones that had positive plus minus this evening. Maybe should have played the bench guys more. They won those segments, Aaron. They did, Graybush. That was like, I was trying to be calm at the beginning of the game when I was just posting on Twitter. They didn't look like they had that bounce in their step. And then I get idiots that all they're on Twitter for is to argue with people. Hate people like that.
Insufferable.
Yeah, it's so annoying. But like, I wasn't talking about the 3 missed layups. I was talking about what Graybush just said. They looked like they were stuck in the mud. They looked like they didn't have that bounce in their step on the defensive end. Look, man, Drew Westerheide, who's a producer at 1530, big time Dayton fan, does a bunch of Dayton content. Like the thing he talked about after that game over and over and over again was how impressed he was by Cincinnati's guards because of how much they just completely frustrated Dayton. They didn't do that tonight. They didn't frustrate the K-State guards really at all. They got to their spots. They're not a great shooting team, so they held the numbers somewhat in check. They are a really good passing team, and time again, the one Coleman Hawkins where he was going to take a bad 3, but right as he was about to take it, a guy flashed right to the middle of the lane, wide open, threw it to him, dunk. I don't know. You got anything else? I'm frustrated with this one because I could see it coming from a mile away, and I wish I was wrong. I talked about it the past 3 days that I could see it coming, and I didn't want it to be right, and I was right. Damn it. Hate being right.
Script was out.
Do you guys know K-State's 9-2 at home against ranked teams since 22-23? Feel like that was up the entire second half. Again, I don't pay attention to any of that.
100 times.
I don't.
It was either them saying that or the lady screaming. That was it. That was the entire second half.
I watch, like, I don't know that it's from 18 years of doing this and getting annoyed with like the narratives that the TV crews create or whatever. I just don't like it. It just doesn't happen in my brain. I don't hear anything really that the announcers say. I don't see any of the graphics really that get put up. Like, I just watch what's happening and then I tweet. And then I deal with my stupid timeline that I'm guessing has 240 new messages from people venting.
Oh, I'm glad they do that.
I'm mad. Tweet at Chad.
I'm glad they do that in your mentions and not mine.
Yeah. Oh, well. Bearcats lose 70-67. Couldn't get it done. Didn't play well enough. On to the next one. Arizona comes to town, 2:30 Saturday. Must win, Aaron. Must win. That's the aftermath. Brought to you by Mios. Live from the Cincy Light Studios, right here on BearcatJournal.com.
See ya.